r slash hip hop heads. To a lot of internet users that are also rap fans, this was the first place they could truly discuss one of their favorite genres. For me specifically, it was because none of my real life friends listened to rap music. I also didn't have that many friends, but hey, hip hop heads was still a good place to either lurk or actually discuss the music you listen to with people that you don't really know, but you share the same interest with. And one of my favorite things about r slash hip hop heads are the album discussion threads, specifically when an album just drops and people are just essentially reacting to the music and having their first discussions about it. So I figured it'd be a cool idea to go back in time throughout the 2010s and look at some classic album releases and see what Reddit had to say about it. So let's see if there were classics on impact. As always, I gotta thank the sponsor to our video, which is the subscribe button. I still don't have a sponsor, but I might get one if this number goes up. So let's start off a little bit more personally here. Now, Travis Scott's Rodeo is one of my favorite albums ever because it's such an immersive experience of an album. Travis really captured a certain sound and feeling on this album that I really don't think he's been able to recreate ever since then. He's made some great albums of music after this, but this album specifically has a certain feeling to it. But also another thing that I might mention a couple times in this video is nostalgia. Nostalgia plays a huge factor in how you feel about an album, how you feel about music in general, which might be the reason why I appreciate this album more than other people do. And a lot of people like Juice WRLD's music more than I do because it came after, you know what I mean? Anyway, let's check out what Reddit has to say about Travis Scott's Rodeo. And you can tell this was a while ago because Travis still has the $sign in his name on this one. Man, 9 years ago. Now that makes me feel old. I kind of wish I could stop listening to Oh My This Side. It's becoming an obsession. I can agree with that to this day. It's one of my favorite Travis tracks. It's such a great way to kick off the album after the intro skit. Quavo killed it. I got shooters dressed in camo. This is around the time when people really started to appreciate the Migos sound. Of course, this was before Bad and Bougie, before they had the global blast, but it's definitely when Quavo and Migos in general were getting more and more appreciated by people online. Is Maria I'm Drunk grayed out for anyone else? If I do remember correctly, this album was not cleared for 4 or 5 years after the album came out. All right, this album or Days Before Rodeo? Which one do you like more? Days Before Rodeo right now, but Rodeo is brand new, so it has a lot of time to age. That's correct, whack username. I really like DBR a lot more, honestly. I'm not saying this is a bad album by any means, but damn, I really like that project. I know I need to listen to this album more, but when it seems like a chore to do so, I don't think it's really worth it. I really wonder what Alex Xander thinks nowadays. Now, Days Before Rodeo is a fantastic mixtape in my opinion. It's one of those final mixtapes before that era kind of died out, and he did tease the sound of Rodeo on it a little bit, but I think Rodeo is just much more in depth of a release with more the sound's more experimental, the songs sound much more finished, and the features are much better. Except Mamacita should have been on Rodeo. That would have been crazy. Can't wait to see how he progresses from here. Not much. 90210 is for sure the best song on this album. See, I like this take. I'm kind of supportive of it. I mean, the production on it's amazing. The beat switch and the storytelling is pretty good for Travis Scott standards. It's a great song. What happened to the Young Lean verse that was supposed to be straight fire? Travis said it so himself. I do kind of remember that Young Lean was supposed to be on this album. It's crazy to think that Young Lean finally got featured on a Travis Scott album for Utopia. I guess he was on Huncho Jack as a sample, I'm pretty sure. But Utopia, he got an actual feature, so that was a full circle moment. Album of the year, this shit for the kid, it's over for you. This comment's kind of funny, but it is kind of true. I mean, it was a kid-centric album. It was a very modern new sound that a lot of people considered an album of the year worthy or a high score worthy. I know when Fantana reviewed it, he gave it an 8 out of 10, and that was kind of huge because people thought he didn't really respect trap and stuff like that, but this album kind of set the bar. Cuddy's influences all over this, as is Kanye's. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Travis really did wear his influences on his sleeve. Not as much as Logic, but Travis really did kind of let that influence ride. And he's always been outspoken about that, specifically on this album. Maybe that's why this album sounds so good, because he was letting the influences affect him more than he does nowadays. Travis now has his own sound and he influences other people a lot. Moving on a couple years back, Good Kid Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. Now, Good Kid Mad City is definitely considered a classic by the young people, by older people, by a lot of people. It's had a lot of time to age. It's been over a decade since it came out and people give it its fair respect. And the top comment in the thread is yak yak yak. This was the height of TDE at some point, and this Schoolboy Q ad-lib really did boost his career a little bit. This is one of those albums that makes you just want to put on your headphones and walk around the city. I agree. If you're following the storyline storyline and the roller coaster of the album, like the concept, it's definitely a nice walkable album. Probably album of the year for me. You're not alone, Dr. Lanky. I haven't liked an album this much since House of Balloons a year and a half ago, and I haven't even liked the hip-hop album this much since Dark Twisted Fantasy. Yeah, Kendrick really did make a big splash in the community with this one. It's definitely one of those instant classic albums that even back then people talk about it the same way they talk about it now. And keep in mind, this was Kendrick's first time in like a big mainstream eye with an album, because Section 80 was just like an independent TDE release. J-Rock's verse is fucking God mode. Backseat freestyle fucking bangs. Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe has the sickest beat I've heard in a while. The only song I really didn't like is Compton. It's much different than what I thought it was at first. Nothing like completely surprising. J-Rock's such a legend. I mean, if you guys don't know, J-Rock was the first kind of like guy in TDE to get it really cracking for them. Like, he broke the door down for Kendrick, for Q, for Absol, for the whole label. I mean, you got someone like SZA right now, one of the biggest pop stars in the world. Without J-Rock, there would never be a SZA down the line, perhaps. And his verse on Money Trees is his best verse ever. I mean, gun to my head, I could probably do that whole verse word for word. Well, maybe not word for word, if you know what I mean. I really feel like I could ride his dick just a bit harder. What? Its narrative is so cohesive and compelling. Such an incredible story. I agree, man. Even when it came out, it was kind of like an immediately digestible story. It wasn't like too heavy where people need to sit with it and understand it. It was kind of a movie. Most songs can stand alone relatively well, but together as a cohesive narrative, they become a gorgeous, complex tale experienced with the eyes, ears, and mind of Kendrick. All right, Chat GPT. He's right though. You could pick almost every song from Good Kid, Mad City and they're standalone an amazing track. But you gotta put them together to really get the whole puzzle. The skit game is thick. That's what makes rap albums classic, the ability to tell a story while making brilliant songs, all while keeping the listener interested and captivated. That's a big part of Good Kid, Mad City. Not a lot of people bring up the skits, man. This is one of those few albums that have skits that are weaved in with the tracks that aren't just instant skips. They're either funny or they give a lot of context to the story of the album. They're just not annoying to skip, you know what I mean? It works well with the songs, particularly the one at the end of Money Trees or the prayer one. Like, there's so many good ones on this one, and that's a really good point not a lot of people bring up. Let's sort by controversial. Second best album to come out this year behind The Heist. Oh god, Macklemore, great album but not as good as Section 80. Wow, I wonder what that guy thinks now. Let's move forward a couple years to 2016. Kanye West, The Life of Pablo. I've went on record a couple times and said The Life of Pablo is my favorite Kanye album. It's just diverse enough, just fun enough, just interesting enough for it to be my number one. I'm not saying his rapping or writing is the best. I'm not saying the hooks are the best. I'm not even saying the production is the best. It's just an experience that I enjoy the most. And a really nice crumb of nostalgia with that. Let's see what people have to say. I think Wolf should be about 7 minutes long, including Vic, Sia, Frank, and Kanye's added verse. Wait a sec. Well, checking Spotify right now, Wolves is a 5-minute song. I know this was before the notorious I'ma fix Wolves tweet, but he did end up adding both Vic, Sia, and a verse, and then making Frank's parts its own song. Anyone else think Chance had the best verse on the album? And I'm not even a big Chance the Rapper fan. That's a valid take, honestly. Swear Cudi sold his soul to Kanye can only produce dank hooks, nothing else. Dank. I cannot comprehend how we went from something as absolute shit as Speeding Bullet to Heaven to having such a great hook and Father Stretch My Hands. It was only a couple months between the releases of Speeding Bullet and The Life of Pablo, but come on, Speeding Bullet to Heaven was a complete, experiment for Kid Cudi. It's not good, but you can't blame him for trying. I really don't know what to think of this album. I'm at least 6 listens deep. I go back and forth from thinking it's kind of a mess structurally and lyrically to wondering if it might be the most fascinating, addicting thing I've ever heard. That perfectly just summarized how I feel about the album. Yeah, it's a complete mess, but it's like an abstract painting in a way. You got Kanye on a Madlib song, you got Kanye doing gospel, there's like trap influences in the middle, there's like a lot of 808s influences and stuff like FML and Wolves. It's a fantastic album, man. Asshole Bleach almost ruined a great song for me. The bleached asshole line is pretty bad, but it's funny in the context of the song, and it's one of Kanye's biggest songs right now. 30 Hours and Real Friends are Ye at his best lyrically. I agree. Let's sort by controversial. Kanye is no structure. Kanye is chaotic. Kanye is unpredictable and artistic. That's exactly what this album is. The album is Kanye to the core. It's one of the best albums ever made. This guy got a lot of replies and a lot of dislikes, but man, I kind of agree with what he's trying to say here. With how chaotic the rollout was for this album and the singles being released and the whole drama surrounding Kanye's bankruptcy and all this random stuff, you really could not predict what this album would sound like. Yet somehow, it's still Kanye. It's still him. I guess a lot of people are on the fence with it, but it makes sense. At the time, it was Kanye's messiest album. But since then, we've gotten Donda and Vultures 1, which are way messier both thematically and structurally and release-wise, so Pablo's pretty tame, all things considered. Let's hop into 2017 with Tyler, the Creator, Scumfuck Flower Boy. Yeah, that album is actually titled Scumfuck Flower Boy. On the CD that I have, it actually says the word Scumfuck on it, but a lot of people seem to forget that. Tyler has improved so much throughout the years, makes me happy as hell that he's been able to make it so far. Awesome album. Yeah, this was really the big turning point in Tyler's career. He really went from like an edgy rapper, abrasive rapper, funny guy online to really like a great artist, a great songwriter and stuff. The transitions between tracks are so smooth, can't even tell when it switches unless I'm watching it. This is huge. The sequencing in Tyler's albums got so much better throughout the years, especially his last few albums. See You Again is the best track. Uchi's really went with those sweet pipes in her throat. Hey yo! He's right though, it is the best song. It's the catchiest song on the album. Maybe Tyler's best project. Seems like he's making the music he's always wanted to. Again, this was before Igor. I think Igor and Call Me If You Get Lost are really what Tyler wants to do, but he needed to do stuff like Flower Boy to really break out of that shell. Ciao, baba. Ne brini, ne brini. Do ponoći, dobra, evo, za 20-30 minuta ću da. One time for grandma. Let's check out Controversial in this one. Don't get the love for this album, probably my least favorite of his. I really wonder what these people think nowadays. I'm sorry to Pimp a Butterfly, Untitled, Unmastered, and My Beautiful. This may have just flown past all of you, and it's my favorite album of all time. Okay, I get it being better than Untitled, Unmastered, literally a compilation of demos, but it's not better than T-Pap or My Beautiful Fantasy. Listening to this on LSD is gonna be lit. Yeah, we're on Reddit, all right. Let's move on to Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. Okay, this is an album that so many people consider an absolute classic, maybe even the best rap album of all time. I'll just say this, Kendrick made it nearly impossible for us to compare this album to Good Kid, Mad City, and that is incredible to me. People were really profound back in the day. This is often a little struggle I have with ranking Kendrick's albums. Good Kid and T-Pap are like some of the best albums I've ever listened to, but it's like two different artists created them. So the fact that Kendrick was able to do both of those sounds is just incredible. It's hard to put one on top of the other. I look at them in like different realms. Not saying in the similarity of sounds, it's just they feel like they're complete different genres. It's different and I know it's being lauded everywhere, but not really feeling it, to be honest. I got about halfway through and felt like putting on Section 80. Maybe just not my type of shit. I think it's just a lot to take in. I'm on my 4th listen and it's not clicking for me as much as its previous two. Maybe I just needed more time. Maybe it's just not for me. And I think this is completely okay. In the online world of music reviewing, I know quite a lot of you that actually force themselves to like this album. Maybe not to an extent of like a Death Grips fan, but this album, if you're a traditional hip hop fan, it might not click for you. And I'll be honest, on the first listen, it didn't. I thought it was kind of boring, kind of slow, until I really started picking away at the layers. So I think it's completely okay if you find an album that everyone finds amazing, not that great. T-Pap probably alienated a lot of his mainstream fans, and then Damn brought them back in hordes. I'll go against the sub, not really my thing. Sure, it's very chill, fantastically written, but I honestly got bored halfway through. It felt too chill for my liking. Good album, but I won't be ranting and raving. Calling this album chill is pretty interesting, as the guy under it said. It's definitely not a chill album. There's a few serene and relaxing moments, but this album is pretty heavy overall. But again, this is first listen type shit. This is probably one of the last albums that took me maybe even like a month to fully digest. Like it's one of those. This album is gonna get the Yeezus treatment. Mark my words. It dropped. Everyone flips out and calls it GOAT. And a couple months later, everyone realizes it wasn't that great. What? Yo, Yeezus treatment is a completely different term than it was 9 years ago, clearly. Because nowadays, Yeezus treatment is like, oh, you didn't like it at first, and then it grows on you. Same with T-Pap. But this guy's using it in a different way. Like, the first day it comes out, you think it's great, and then you fall off on it. This guy was completely off the mark with this one. It's just not as good as Kanye. I mean, nothing will be as good as Kanye. Kanye's got... Let's move on. We can't do one of these without checking out his most controversial album. Maybe not to date, but back in the day, Yeezus. Hurry up with my damn croissants! It's like 808s and Heartbreak on cocaine. Don't disrespect Yeezus like that, man. I liked it, but it's just shorter than I expected. Again, he never really delved back into this type of sound. So he really did just kind of give us like 10 tracks and left it alone. The antithesis of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, short, volatile, experimental. There's gonna be a lot of disappointed people. You're crazy for this one, yay. Absolutely agree with this one. Kanye did not give a shit about what people think. He really went balls to the wall with something he really wanted to make, and I really appreciated that. And I was one of those people that really did not like this album. I was super disappointed, especially coming off stuff like Watch the Throne and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. But nowadays, man, I really do think it's a great album. God damn, Blood on the Leaves is incredible. Man, it still is to this day, one of his best songs. Please don't call call Yeezus a classic or trash in the next 24 hours. It just came out. Let it breathe, man. Yeah, I think that works nowadays with albums as well. People call things trash way too quickly. Damn, today is stacked. I mean, if you guys don't remember, this was the same day that Yeezus, Born Sinner, and Watching Movies with the Sound Off came off. So rap fans were eating this day. Looking back at it, number 3 is Born Sinner. Number 2 is Watching Movies with the Sound Off, and number 1 is Yeezus. I had doubts about Justin Vernon and Chief Keef on the same track, but oh my god, Hold My Liquor is fucking amazing. That Future makes a lot of sense for that one, but I think Chief Keef was the only one that could deliver it in that specific kind of tone. I'm pretty sure this was like 17-year-old Chief Keef on Yeezus. Look at these dick riders protecting the piece of shit album Complete Trash, and right under it, just downloaded it. Best album in history of the world in any genre, no debate. Absolutely. Am I the only one who thinks this is complete and utter garbage? You're not the only one, man, trust me. This is the worst thing I've heard in my entire life. A lot of this discussion is the same type of discussion you could probably see nowadays. So I think a lot of like first reactions shouldn't be discredited completely. I guess it depends on what type of discussion it is. In written format, it's much more formal, it's much more thought out. When people just blurt out reactions and they're like, damn, I don't think that adds much to any discussion. But it's cool to see not every album is completely regarded as great or bad immediately. There's a lot of ups and downs. Anyways, you guys let me know if you want me to do this again. Drop more albums in the comments, I'll check them out. And yeah, thanks for watching. What's the Buzz is out.